This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Just a good-looking man, and any bar mate can be a star mate if she dances with or without a
Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. Welcome to today's edition of the movie review of the day. I am Andy Atherton, back here with you on a Monday, starting off another fun week, a theme week here on the movie review podcast series. This week we were all about road trips. That's right, something that people do all year round, but mostly in the summer. And since we are in the summer, we're going to talk about 5 very good road trip movies. They come in all shapes and sizes too. There was a big kind of group to pick from for this, and I narrowed down my choices here to start us off with a movie from 2013 called We're the Millers. Very funny, kind of, I don't know if I say underrated comedy. It's not one that gets talked about enough. I mean, it is 13 years ago, but it is it's funny too, because it was like kind of weird, because it's a post-Friends Jennifer Aniston who was out there looking for different roles, and this was definitely a different role for her, and a pre-Ted Lasso Jason Sudeikis, who I can't remember if he was already off Saturday Night Live at this point, but he was starting to really move into that lead, in comedies. He was part of ensembles. We had Horrible Bosses, which him and Jennifer Aniston both were in. And he just was showing up in different roles, like It Happens in Vegas, or What Happens in Vegas, or whatever, where he plays Cameron Diaz's ex. He was starting to really come into his own, and this was one of his first starring vehicles, from what I can remember. But the log line for this movie is: a veteran pot dealer creates a fake family as part of his plan to move a huge shipment of weed into the U.S. from Mexico. And not only does it star Jason Sudeikis and Jennifer Aniston, also stars Emma Roberts, Will Poulter, Ed Helms, Nick Offerman, Catherine Hahn, Molly C. Quinn, Luis Guzman, Thomas Lennon, Ken Marino. Lots of very funny people in this movie. This is pre-glam up for Will Poulter, where he played Kenny, a very dorky, 18-year-old kid. And then it's so funny. Like, I, first of all, didn't know he was British for a very long time. He also was in that Maze Runner movie. And then he comes back and you see him, and it's like him and the kid who plays Neville, Matthew Lewis in Harry Potter. They were like 2 of the biggest glam ups I think I've seen in a very long time. Emma Roberts was still, kind of fresh and new. I mean, had been acting since she was young. Ed Helms, fresh off, very popular, but finding, Ed Helms playing a drug dealer named Brad Gerlinger is quite of a play right there, if you will. Nick Offerman and Catherine Hahn showing up as a married couple, the Fitzgeralds, very funny. Luis Guzman as a very small part as a Mexican cop, but very memorable, and Rick Nathanson played by Thomas Lennon. So as you kind of go through this movie, it's a road trip movie, because they have to get themselves down to Mexico, and then they find a way to get all this weed back, and they get a big time RV. So it actually, this movie did very well at the box office. It grossed $270 million worldwide, against a $37 million budget during its theatrical run. It was nominated for 4 People's Choice Awards and 6 MTV Movie Awards, winning 2 of them, actually. Let's see if they have it listed here, which ones they won. So Will Poulter won for Best Breakthrough Performance, and Emma Roberts, Will Poulter, and Jennifer Aniston won for Best Kiss. So the movie takes place in Denver, where we have a low-level marijuana dealer, David Clark, as Jason. He's robbed of his money in the stash. It's funny. You can kind of tell that David, he's a pot dealer. He's a little bit of a scumbag, but he does actually kind of have a little bit of a heart there. And he has to go to a supplier after he got his stuff stolen, and his old college friend, Brad Gerlinger. So Brad basically forces him to smuggle marijuana from Mexico to clear his debt. Realizing to get through customs alone would be suspicious, he hires his neighbors. So we have a stripper whose stage name is Rose, and that's Jennifer Aniston, and it's one of her first real kind of like naughty parts, I guess. You see, because yeah, she is a stripper. You don't see anything, right? But there, it kind of does play into the movie later. Local runaway Casey, who is, I believe, who he helps. That's how he gets his stuff stolen, and then recently abandoned teenager Kenny to pose as his family, dubbing themselves as Millers. So they go through a whole like kind of clean up to make themselves look like this like kind of dorky all-American family. So that they, and Brad sends them to go get a smidge of pot. It turns out it's 2 tons of pot. Then they are stopped by the authorities twice, but get away on bribery and sheer luck to the extra load from the marijuana on the RV. While the radiator hoses breaks, they then meet up with the Fitzgeralds, a family actually vacationing in an RV whom the Millers had encountered at the border, and catch up with them, and now in towed to repair a shop. They learn that Don is a DEA agent. That alarms them. And it's a lot of funny interactions there. Catherine Hahn is just killing it, and I'm surprised they could keep a straight face. I mean, they do have outtakes at the end of the film here, and they go through, and then we get Kenny, of course, has a crush on their daughter Melissa. After reveals he's never kissed a girl, Casey and Rose giving kissing lessons while David films. Melissa walks in them and assumes they are an incestuous relationship, hence leading to the winning for the best kiss at the MTV Movie Awards, right? And so also turns out that Brad misleads David as marijuana is stolen from a cartel boss, Pablo Chacon. The next day, when the Millers head to the shop for the RV, Chacon and his henchmen, one eye waiting for them as he prepares to kill them. They disclose they're not a real family. They did not know they were stealing from him. Rose is then given a chance to prove that she's a stripper by dancing in her underwear. And when she gets close to Chacon, she turns a steam vent on him. The Millers then escape with Kenny behind the wheel. But due to their erratic driving, Kenny RV veers off the road and crashes. In the commotion, a tarantula snuck on board in the RV and in Mexico and crawls up Kenny's legs and bites one of his testicles and forces him to be hospitalized. And yeah, it's a prosthetic, but man, what this tarantula bite does to his testicles is quite the horrific thing that you never wish on any man. So then David then has to they have a delay, so David has to renegotiate with Gerlinger for a fee of $500,000 on the condition that he arrives that night. After Kenny's finally released from the hospital, David kind of rushes him to the RV in a wheelchair and actually tips him over. In the ensuing argument, David inadvertently reveals how much he's getting paid in comparison to how little he offered to pay the others. So then Rose, Casey, and Kenny decide to part company with David. He then to get away. They all leave at the condo. Ray regrets abandoning them and returns. And then we get the scene where was it? I lost my spot. Where Casey hooks up with Scotty P, a kitty ride attendant who befriends and later sexually harasses Casey. So this guy, he's like, with his tattoo that's supposed to say no regrets, but says no regrets, which has become a very famous meme out there. And and then he ends up Casey ends up punching him in the nose. Or I think it's Casey or Rose, and he also says the phrase, I'm saying a lot, and people are like, no, we don't know what you're saying. And he's a very memorable character who's very annoying. But then David apologizes to the trio for not being out front of him. They agree to rejoin them to get home. As they make their way to the RV, One Eye finds them before he can shoot them. Don comes out of his camper and subdues them. Then Chacon comes around the corner and Melissa at gunpoint. He's about to kill them all. However, he's momentarily distracted by the 4th of July fireworks, so Kenny and David subdue him. Kenny kisses Melissa, prompting David to kiss Rose. Don arrests Chacon, but lets the Millers leave. A very funny scene here. And then Gerlinger reveals he never intended to pay David for smuggling the marijuana. When David delivers it to him, the agents arrive and take him into custody thanks to David's tip. Don tells David that he and any witnesses of the crime will be placed into witness protection until Brad Gerlinger and Chacon's trials. Leah the Millers, now under witness protection, are living in a suburban house with marijuana plants growing in the backyard. So they start off as these kind of neighbors, strangers, whatever, and to become this family. They still are who they are. They just appear a little differently. It's kind of like they took like their Miller's personality and combined it with their original personality, and you got somewhere in the middle, which I think is very cool about it. Again, it's a very, very funny movie. It's one of those that does appear quite often on cable. A very funny outtake when Kenny, they do a scene in the movie where they sing "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls" by TLC, and Kenny knows like the whole rap part, and so they show an outtake though. They're like, okay, let's put on some music. And it's supposed to be Waterfalls, and it turns out it is the Rembrandts singing "I'll Be There for You," which is the Friends theme. A little prank they pull on Jennifer Aniston, and it's actually quite fun. But all in all, I give this, I don't know, I don't really give grades, but I would just give this like, a 7. I didn't say it's not a perfect movie, but it's a very funny movie. And I think you should check it out. If you've listened this far and I've spoiled it, still, you should check it out if you haven't seen it. All right, so we got 4 more great road trip movies coming to you this week, but don't forget, check out everything else we got going on here. The Video Jukebox on the Day, which is 8 a.m. every weekday, and more Long Form podcasts coming to you this week and next week. So hit the road, gas up, get yourself some snacks, and have some fun as we talk about road trip movies for the rest of the week. All right, take care.